Hello. Hope everyone's well. Hopefully everyone can hear me. But it would just be really, really handy if in the chat box we could just get a couple of people just giving a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. I won't go any further until we see if you can hear me. You can hear me? Okay, cool. I'm going to remove. Just give me one moment. I'm just going to blur this out so it's better. Okay. Is that okay, or is that really weird lighting? I'm wary that I'm going to be quite lit up. So can you just give me a sense of if that looks all right for lighting, or does it look a bit? Can you see me okay? If I sit there, can you see me okay? Is the lighting weird? Much better. Okay. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna stay like this, and then hopefully you can all see me okay. Welcome everyone, and yeah, if my audio dips out at any point, then please just let me know, just to make sure that yeah, we can all still hear me. Lighting good. Thank you very much. Yeah, welcome everyone. It's been a little while since we've done one of these live streams. And I know we've got lots and lots of questions coming through here, which is really, really cool to see. And actually, just keep the questions coming through. Would be really, really handy. Just so again, like we've got lots of different areas that we can explore within the next half hour, 45 minutes or so. So just keep them coming through, and I'll get through as many questions as I can. But for those of you that don't know me, and this might be the first time that you've actually seen me, my name's Barney, and I'm the sports psychologist that works for Match Fit Conditioning. And we've been running a series of workshops over the last few weeks or so, or few months or so, and now we're going to try out a bit of a live Q&A just to see kind of what questions are out there, and if we've missed a few areas, and if there's some things that people want to know about. I can see a few thumbs up coming in there, which is really cool. Okay, so again, so if you don't know me, I've worked a lot in across lots of different sports, predominantly working within football, but also experience of working into different sports such as cycling, a little bit into cricket, across very different sports, and also across people of different ages as well. So again, like I know I've had experience of working with a few of you within Match Fit one-to-one, and again, like in more group-based settings. So I can recognize a few of the names in the group chat, which is cool to see. And also some new faces, which is really cool. So yeah, keep the questions coming, and I'll try and get through as many as I can do. And if the lighting drops out again at any point, then please just tell me in the chat, and I'll try and correct it. Okay, so I'm going to get the questions up so you can read them as I go as well, which I think will be quite handy. Okay, the first question, let's get it up on the screen. So hopefully you can see something that's just popped up on the screen. And Jeff, nice to see you, has said, how does psychology factor into doing your preparation, fitness routine, or diet? And I'm going to leave the questions up here. So again, like for those of you that are watching the back, you can see this. It has a massive impact. It's when we talk about routine, psychology and your mindset plays a massive role. And whether it be fitness, whether it be diet, whether it be any of those things, like your mindset plays a massive role. And if I give you some examples of how that plays out, those individuals that don't necessarily have a sense of routine can sometimes struggle with, lacking motivation, lacking confidence to complete tasks, lack of direction and belief in where you're going. Whereas those that have a routine and are prepared for that just have a little bit more direction, they have a little bit more drive, they have a little bit more of sense of where they're moving towards. So again, whether it be, you take fitness for example, if you've got a list of things that you're setting out to do, whether that be goals, whether that be checklists, whether it be little things that you tick off as you go, if you've got a daily planner that you complete, again, all of those things just give you a little bit of structure that can be set around like how you go about your fitness, how you go about your diet, and all of those things. And the physical sensation of actually like ticking something off as you go is really, really powerful. So again, like I would say psychology plays a massive role in terms of like your fitness and your routine and your diets that you're trying to stick to. But what I would say is like, don't necessarily always get caught up on like having to do everything all the time. So like what we know about routines is sometimes they're broken and sometimes we don't always stick to them. So don't necessarily beat yourself up if you don't do everything that's in your daily plan or in your routine. Like it's there to be reviewed, it's there to be revisited. So again, like I would use it. I'd use psychology to structure yourself and structure those routines, but also be good to yourself and don't feel like you've got to do everything all the time. But really good question. I actually missed one at the top. Apologies. So I'm going to go back to Michael's. Also, if I haven't answered your question as you think it should have been, then please just ask it again, and I'll come back to it as well. Any advice on how to avoid overthinking? Some of our best players in practice tighten up on game day. Yeah. Overthinking is something that comes up a lot. And I think what we're sometimes guilty of doing is thinking that overthinking is thinking. Like we want people to think, we want people to be able to regulate themselves. We want people to be able to know what they're doing at different times. But overthinking becomes a slight concern is where you might get yourself into like negative cycles or negative patterns. And if those situations start to occur, then it means that our ability to execute and our ability to commit to different things in certain situations can sometimes be clouded. And I'll give you an example of this. So there's a footballer that I've been working with who the coach always says to them, like, we need you to stop overthinking. And as soon as someone says that to this young person, it's one of the hardest things to do. It's like someone saying to you, like, oh, don't think of a pink elephant. Like probably the thing you're thinking about now is a pink elephant. So again, the more you tell someone not to do something, the harder it becomes. So with overthinking, the way I always see it is like, ask people to talk about what their thought process are. Like get them to actually expand upon it, get them actually to talk about it. So if players are tightening up and overthinking on a game day, what are the reasons as to why? Be curious about it. So if you're a coach or if you're a parent or whoever, like just asking them like what's going through your head? What are you thinking at different times? Because then by grasping that and understanding that, we've then got ways to then think about, well, if you're doubting yourself, if you're overthinking some negative spirals, or if you're worried about something, then it gives you opportunities to understand it and then think about what other things you could then replace it with. So rather than saying, oh, stop overthinking or stop doing this, try and understand it, try and process it, and then go, well, what's more helpful in this situation? So again, I think it's an interesting one because it comes up a lot of the time. And our natural tendency is just to go and try and nip it in the bud straight away. But overthinking and thinking, like they're really closely linked. So we still want people to be able to tune in and regulate and think about themselves. But it's just when it becomes impacting your performance negatively, where you're getting yourself into those spirals. So yeah, like check in on it, name it, have a conversation around it, and then think about more helpful thinking patterns as a way of navigating that overthinking, I would say. But yeah, great question, Michael. Really cool question. I'm going to take this one off the screen. And then we're going to make our way down. So the next question is how to stay focused in a match after making a serious mistake. It's hard. Well, firstly, it's hard. It's not easy. But there are also loads of things that you can try. I think one of the things that we often think about as mistakes is you make a mistake and then your reaction pattern is, "Oh, I really need to go and make up for this," or I really need to go and overcompensate, or I really need to go and put in a hard challenge, or dribble past someone, or make up for it. And then as a result of that, you do things that you wouldn't normally do. So the important thing to stay focused after a mistake is to go, okay, like I've acknowledged it's happened. Okay, you can't go back and change that. So acknowledge the mistake in your head, and then go, okay, so what's helpful now? So what's helpful in this situation? So an unhelpful thing would be to go, I'm going to go and take it out on the ref, or I'm going to go and slide tackle someone, or I'm going to go and try and complete a worldie of a shot that I've never completed before. So they're unhelpful. Helpful things to do in that situation would be to go, okay, a really simple pass. Let me get myself back into the game. Let me focus on my breathing. Let me try and talk to a teammate, because just by talking to a teammate, just gets yourself out of your own head for a little bit. So again, like there's very, very small things that you can do that just help ground yourself after a mistake. So I'd say that the important thing is to go, the mistake is going to happen. So acknowledge the mistake is going to happen. And then think about, well, what's helpful? What's a helpful response? And that can be really, really simple processes, which is, taking a deep breath, it's communicating effectively, it's getting yourself back into position, it's stringing a few very, very simple passes together. If you're a goalkeeper watching this, like I know recently we did some work with a goalkeeper and they basically like clap their hands together, because again, it's just to get themselves out of their own head. It's the physical sensation of feeling your hands rub against each other. Again, just gives you something that's external to what's going on in your head. So there's loads of things that you can play around with. But again, what I would say is like, let's not get lost between things that can help performance and superstitious behaviors. So you might have seen footballers that do very superstitious things, and that can be like adjusting sock height. It can be wearing like lucky socks. It can be doing loads and loads of different things. What I would say is like, find things that actually are meaningful to you. So again, if it's communicating effectively with someone, if it's taking a deep breath, if it's feeling the grass under your feet, like as a sign that you're in the moment, if it's like shouting or venting, it could be loads of things, but find something that's right for you rather than just copying, I don't know, something you've seen at the weekend or a footballer that's doing something, because that's where it becomes meaningful, when you're doing things that are right for you. They would be the things that I'd say when you're rebounding after a mistake. So hopefully that's helpful. Good question though. Can we go to? Oh, I've got two questions here. Okay, we have got again, I'll read them out. So people have got these. At youth level, ages 12 to 17, there can be a big gap in physical size between players at the same team. The less physically players can often be at a disadvantage. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think so, and I think like from answering this from a mental point of view, like that physical gap or that physical disadvantage can be really, really challenging. And again, when you're thinking about players that you're going up against that could be, I don't know, even sometimes a foot taller than you, can't you? So like, again, like you're already going in thinking, oh, I'm going to have to try and do something here to try and like either get in on someone or like ramp someone up or like try and do something a little bit extra special because physically I'm not quite the same as someone else. But that's the comparison part. That's the comparison to someone else. Like that person who is physically developed might not have those technical and tactical abilities that you've got. They might not have the communication skills that you've got. They might not have the ability to bounce back from failure like you've got. So like, I would always say like to try and avoid that comparison as much as you can and go, yes, it might be a disadvantage in terms of like physically being able to shoulder people or jump higher or run faster or do all those things. But you will also have advantages in other areas that you can also try and excel in. And that can be your turn of direction. That can be your low center of gravity. That can be your ability to nimble past players quicker, your ability to do all those mindset things that I just referred to. Like again, like to try and see the opportunities rather than the threats associated with it. But it's a really good point, a really, really good point. And yeah, there's no real answer to it. But again, like you're probably just going like, what are the opportunities and what are the threats associated with this, and just trying to weigh them out that way. But yeah, really cool thing to mention for sure. Thank you. Going to make my way down a couple of questions. Michael said lighting good. Thank you. Hopefully it's still like that. Got a question coming here. Oh, sorry. I think this continues the last question that we had. I think it goes off the back of it. So that's my apologies. But absolutely can impact the confidence because of, again, that physically less developed. But again, same in that last answer I just gave, that would probably be the threat associated with it. So you go, physically, I'm not there. So therefore the threat is I'm going to lack confidence. However, there's also those loads of other opportunity mindsets that you might be able to try and take from that, like trying to see the opportunities within those maybe physical limitations at times. So again, this is where mindset can be so important. You can go the one side where it's like, well, what's the point? Like, why do I even take part? Like, I'm not physically developed as much as these people. Why do I even try? Or you go the other lens of, this is a massive opportunity for me. I can do things that those people can't do. I'm going to thrive in other areas. So again, like it's very much like how you choose to view that situation. But yeah, really good point. Jeff said, "Hey, hi Jeff. I hope you're well." We've got Lucas. Get this one up. Lucas has put, how can you make a coach not believing in you not affect your confidence and making his preferences your reality? Oh, that's a class question. It's a tough one, isn't it? So I think like this, like if we look at confidence, okay, so if we break this question up, because I think it's a really good question, and I think it's got different components to it. So confidence is broken up into three main areas, and these three main areas revolve around this thing that's known as autonomy. So if you feel in control of something, or in control of your ability to go and execute something, then that gives you a little bit more confidence in certain situations. It also comes from like the belief that you've seen yourself do something before, or belief that you know you can do something. So if you are competent in a certain drill, or if you're competent in a certain shot, or if you're competent doing something and you know you've done it before, that gives you a little bit of confidence to do it, because you can see yourself doing it, you visualize yourself doing it, you've got all those things. The last component is this thing called relatedness, or your ability to connect with people. And this probably links really closely into here, because if you've got people around you that believe in you, that challenge you appropriately, that are curious about you, that want to know about you, that invest in your development, that in itself can help you feel a little bit more confident. Now, what we've got here is we've got the reverse of that. So if you've got a situation where the coach isn't believing in you, then suddenly you've got one of those components out of the three that is lacking a little bit. So what I would say in that situation is to try and then go, okay, so if this is the case, what can you do about it? So it might be the case that you could go one or two ways. You could go, the coach isn't believing in me. The coach doesn't know what he's talking about or she's talking about. Therefore, I'm just going to go, you know what? I'm just going to walk away. I'm going to give up. What's the point? Okay, that is a choice. Okay, so you could go that way. It's not necessarily a helpful choice, but you could do it. The other side of the coin could go, that coach doesn't believe in me. I want to understand that reason. Okay, so that's your first point. So the first point is to go, well, where can I go for? Where does that lack of belief come from? Okay, so having an open dialogue, an open conversation with the coach, so you've got a bit of grounding to go on. So rather than it being that person doesn't believe in me, it's that person doesn't believe in me because, and then you've got some reasons. It could be technically I need to work on this. It could be physically I'm not quick enough to do this. It could be there's a person that's just come into my position who is doing really well in training and they want to give them a chance in a game. So again, like get some clarity on the decision and why that might be the case. And then you go, okay, so now I've got some understanding of things I can work on to go, you know what? I can prove to myself and prove to that person that I am good enough. And suddenly then you've got some lists of things that you can work towards, which are, again, technically, tactically, psychologically, physically. You've then got some things to work towards. Okay. So all you're doing there is you're starting an open conversation. You're then going, okay, so he clearly cares about his development or her development because they're asking the question. And then you're going, okay, and here's some things I can work towards to just show that I'm worth my place in the team. So again, it's showing a way of approaching a situation rather than just going, you know what, I'm out of here. I'm just going to avoid it. Okay. So again, it's really small little things that I would say make a massive difference in the long run. So I'd have the conversation, I'd have some targets and goals that you can work towards, and I'd bring it back into your control. What are the things that you can work towards rather than, oh, they're not believing in me. Like, what can I do? So hopefully that answers it. But it's a hard question. It's really, really hard, because then you've got the bit around like the reality aspect of it. So like the preferences become a reality. And again, like just be wary or cautious that just because someone's got an opinion doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Like people hold different opinions at different times. So like, again, have the clarity of it, have an understanding of it. You don't have to always agree with it. You can challenge parts of it, but ultimately like try and bring it back to the things that you can control and the things you believe in. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question, but it's a really good one. We've got Wren has asked a question here. So Wren has asked, what should be done when all your teammates and outsiders say that you should be starting 11, but the coach doesn't put you in? Again, like it's a really similar one to that last question, because this is relatively common. So you get lots and lots of teammates going like, oh yeah, I should be in the team. Like, and then you've got a coach saying, who holds the ultimate power and decision making, going, you're not quite ready. But in this situation, what I would say is, like, again, similar to the last one, like, go and seek some clarity, like go and understand the reasons as to why you might not be in the team in the first place. Like, have it from the point of contact from the coach, because you could go to every single person in the team and they could all be like, no, you should be in the team. All that's going to do is fuel your frustration a little bit more. So go to the point of contact that's going to make a difference. Go and have a conversation with the coach. You don't have to do that on your own, by the way. You could go with a parent, you could go with a teammate, you could go with someone else or a support staff member that you're close with, and just have that conversation, generate it. And then all you're doing in there is you're planting a little seed within the coach's head that says, this person really cares about the development. They care about trying to win me over or improve and try and develop. And that in itself can be really, really powerful. So generate the conversation with the person that matters, and then go, well, what can I do to bring it back into my control? Okay. So again, then you've got the goals and targets and things that you can work towards. So yeah, similar to the last question, but again, like, sometimes that those teammates, sometimes the people around you can generate lots and lots of noise that you think is helpful, but actually it can just frustrate you at times. So just be careful of where you're tuning in and out of your information from as well. But really, yeah, really good question. Lucas has asked a question here that is also, like, if there's questions, because I'm just making my way through them. If there's questions that you want to know a little bit more of and I haven't quite answered them, then please just put them in again, because I realize I'm going through these, and if I haven't quite hit the nail on the head, then please just let me know and I can go back. And also, if there's some other bits that I haven't touched upon, then please let me know. How can you become less tired and not put as much value in the end result and outcome goals, which then decreases your confidence and motivation if they're not hit? Yeah, like, this is a really, really key question, because like that less tired component, we often get this thing referenced as like an emotional burnout, or this fatigue that we might experience. And to give you an example, I was working with someone recently who was a young player, and they were saying that I'm setting myself some targets or some things that I'm going to try and work towards Christmas. So Christmas would be like a midpoint of the season, essentially. And they were already saying, oh, I'm not sure if that's achievable now, based on like how their preseason went and based on how the things went at the start of the season. And suddenly you get this lack of motivation, you get this tiredness, you get the what's the point mentality. So what I would say is, like, set yourself goals that are definitely shorter, that are definitely more realistic, that are definitely achievable, that can be done within a relatively short space of time. And then that allows you to work towards some longer term ambitions, which could be certain amount of goals by Christmas, that could be a certain amount of assists, that could be a certain amount of clean sheets, that could be a promotion. It can be all of those things, but break every single one of those things down that isn't the end result. So to give you the example, like if your outcome goal for a season is I want to be the team's top assister, for example, like how are you actually going to do that? So it's a great ambition to have, but your targets every day or your targets every week are going to be, well, I need to really work on my ability to receive the ball in tight areas and get my head up early. I need to be able to scan effectively left to right from a consistent basis to have pictures in my head. I need to be able to like have really good communication with my teammates and really good visuals to go, if they're on the move, I can pick them out with a little glance to the left and their hand's already there. So it's about like really trying to break those longer term ambitions into really small specific targets that you then go, in the next training session, I'm going to work on my scanning, my ability to receive the ball in tight areas. Like you can really make it as specific as you can, rather than those longer term ambitions, which can be quite frustrating to work towards at times. And what I would also say to this question is, like, don't be afraid to review and fail at your goals. Like, do not be afraid to do that, because like you will set targets and set goals at the start of the season. And if you hear people talk about like, oh, if you haven't met your goals and it's like that you're a failure or you've let yourself down here, it's absolute rubbish. Like, goals are there to be worked towards and also reviewed and failed upon. Okay, that's the purpose of them. Like, we're not robots. We're not going to be able to do everything all the time. Like, so set yourself some meaningful targets, because that's good for your structure and your purpose. But also, every so often, review where you're moving towards. Review your goals with your parents, with your teammates, with your coaches, with yourself, because that really shows an element of growth. And that shows that you're not just setting these fixed targets that are just there at the start of the season, just like a tick box exercise. It's actually showing that you really care about them, because you're trying to work towards them, you're reviewing them, you're challenging yourself, you're stretching yourself, you're failing at them, but then you're reviewing them. Like, that's where the true value of goal setting really hits home. Like, it's not setting yourself targets and hitting it all the time, like, because then again it gets complacent, it becomes quite easy at times. Like, set yourself some really specific goals, don't be afraid to fail at them, and keep reviewing them. It would be my argument to this. And then as a result, it takes the pressure off the confidence of, oh no, if I haven't hit my goal, that's it. Like, I've lacked my motivation, my confidence is hit. Like, so again, just try and think about it in really smaller goals, smaller processes, and go about it that way. But yeah, great question, Lucas. I think the question underneath this is the same one, isn't it, Lucas? I don't know if it's just come through twice. Wren said, do you have any advice for overthinkers when it comes to making mistakes? Yes, similar probably to the one we did previously. But again, what I would say is, like, when it comes to trying to like get yourself back into the moment, I would always do these kind of three main principles, or these three main things. And if you've got a little bit of paper, it might be worth just jotting these down. But like, it's the language around what, so what, and now what. Like, they would be the three things that I would kind of go through my head. Okay, so like, if you've made a mistake, the overthinking can play into your head and go, I'm not good enough. What's the point? People are watching me. My coach is going to pull me off. My teammates don't think I'm good enough. Like, you get yourself into this critical voice or this negative spiral that can kind of just seep into your game. But if you suddenly reframe that as three very simple terms, three really simple things to get your thoughts back in underway, and you go, what? So what just happened? Okay, so you gave the ball away. Okay, so you've identified the mistake. So what? Like, what's the bigger picture? Like, giving that ball away, like, how long is left in the game? Like, have you got time to rectify it? Like, what's the bigger picture? What can I do now? Like, and then the final bit is the now what. So the now what is like, well, what can I do in this next moment? What can I do in my next action? What can I do in the next few seconds to get myself back into position to not think about the mistake? Okay. And then suddenly what you've got by just going, what, so what, now what, you've just got a really simple process to go through in your head that just gives yourself a really good like anchor to go, okay, I'm overthinking, I'm worrying about things, but here's some really simple principles that I can bring it back to. So again, like it's something that if you do once or twice or even like three times for that argument, like I don't think it would have much of an impact if I'm being completely honest. But if you embedded that and you did that consistently and you created those patterns in your head where you go, what, so what, now what, after a mistake, it just becomes autonomous. It becomes like an automatic reaction that you go back to. And then in the future, when you get a little bit older, it just becomes the norm. It just becomes the thing that you jump back to. So rather than trying to go, oh, I'm overthinking, I need to stop overthinking, I need to move on to something else, you've got a very simple process where you go, what, so what, now what, back in the game, move on. And again, like these aren't easy things to implement. These are challenging things. And it might seem really unnatural to do that to start with. But over time, like any other muscle in the body, if you train it long enough and you train it hard enough, it will grow, develop, it will get stronger. And so processes like that just enable you to start building different connections in your brain that just help for later on in life. So again, a very simple tool, but one, if it's done correctly and consistently, can be really, really beneficial. So yeah, I would say that that's probably the thing I'd answer to that. I would also just say on overthinkers when it comes to mistakes is don't be afraid to share this with I don't know, Wren, if you're a player or a coach or a parent but I wouldn't be afraid to share this with people around you. So people have a tendency when they make a mistake to have certain ways of reacting. So it could be that you throw your hands up in the air. It could be that you show a sad face. It could be you get frustrated. It could be that you go within your shell a little bit. Don't be afraid to share that with people so that other people know when you're struggling. Because then the impact of that then is if a teammate goes, oh, I've just seen that person like go into their shell a little bit, they're struggling. What do you then need in that situation? So teammates are then aware, coaches are then aware, because they could then go, you get an arm around them, you give them a little bit of a G up, you give them a little bit of confidence, you give them a little bit of belief, or it could be that you just tell them to do very simple things like make people aware of your reaction patterns is ultimately what I'm saying, because then what you're doing is then not putting all the pressure on yourself to go, I've got to work this out for myself. It then goes, it's a responsibility of the coach, the teammates, the people around you to get yourself out of that situation and support you. So again, like you've got the individual things you can do, which is the what, so what, now what. You've also got the knowledge of your reaction patterns that you can share with other people around you. So again, like just two different ways to look at it, but hopefully gets to a similar point of like how you bounce back from mistakes. Let me go on to there's actually no more questions in the chat box. I've just been scrolling down. But what I would just like to mention is there's one thing that's come out relatively recently, again, because I've been seeing some questions coming through and people asking me some questions through the app, is around like your ability to respond to injury. And this might not be relevant to anyone in here, by the way, like none of you might have experienced injuries, but as part and parcel of football, I'm sure some of you would have had some sort of setback, some sort of injury, something go wrong at some point, or it could happen in the future. So I think it's important just to touch base on this one. And the question. Sorry, I'll take this question off. And the question revolved around. I'm worried that when I come back from my injury, I'm not going to be the same player. I'm not going to be able to hit the same heights as I did before, and therefore I lose loads and loads of motivation to almost like want to come back because they don't think they're going to be the same player as they were. And you wouldn't believe how many times I hear this. Like it's one of the most common things around people that experience a period of time out of the game, how they then bounce back and come back into like a performance area after their injuries. And one of the things I would say to something like this is around like don't necessarily think that it's all on you in these situations. Like there's lots of things that when you experience an injury, you'll have lots of setbacks, you'll have lots of frustrations, you'll have periods away from the game, you'll have self-doubts, you'll have criticisms, you'll have maybe loneliness at times, like because you could be in the gym doing your own stuff when other people aren't there. And when you come back, you're not going to be the same player. Like it's not the reality that you're going to come back exactly the same. Like there'll be a period of transitioning back into performance after the injury. So like my point is like be really good to yourself. Like set yourself some really realistic expectations when transitioning back into performance. So rather than going, I'm going to pick up where I left off, it's my performance is going to take X amount of months to try and get back up to a similar type of level. It's giving yourself permission to not come back and hit the ground running. It's giving yourself that permission to go, I'm going to struggle when I come back and it's going to be really, really hard at times. And just because I'm not doing my injury rehab doesn't mean that I'm back where I was. So again, like have that mentality of it's going to be tough. It's going to be a struggle, but give yourself some small markers to work towards. And with that, when it comes to like returning from injury, share that with your coach, share that with your teammates, share it with your strength and conditioning person, share it with all those people, because the management of those expectations is key to supporting you in motivating you and keeping your confidence like stable moving throughout the season. And again, like what we know about injuries is that they can have a massive toll on your ability to have belief in yourself and your confidence and your motivation. And they're all the norms that are going to happen to that. But just remember to be good to yourself, set yourself realistic targets, manage those expectations, and plan for those moments of when you're returning, to know that you're going to have a period of time where it's going to be difficult at times and tricky, and you might not be able to do things, but allow your time to be able to build those things back into your game and have the conversations with people around you is probably the advice I would give, because I know people put a lot of pressure on themselves when they're injured to go, I need to be back at a certain time. Like, so just like take the time, manage those expectations, speak to the people, and use those as bits to just build into your rehabilitation as well. And yeah, I know no one asked about the injury side of things, but it's come up a few times recently, so I just wanted to make sure it was in there. Okay, cool. I can't see any more questions coming in, so I'm gonna wrap up. But yeah, thank you so much for those that attended the session today. I really appreciate the questions coming in, and it's really, really helpful to get a real variety of different questions. So really, really, really appreciate that. What I would say is that we're going to be running more of these as well. So please, like, keep your questions coming in, build them up, think about some things in your head, and bring them to the next session as well, because there's always going to be new things that we can learn and build into our performances. So yeah, just try and keep thinking about them, keep bringing them into these sessions, and hopefully it gives you some things to take away and work on. But yeah, thank you very much to everyone for coming along. And yeah, I'll speak to a lot of you soon, and have lovely weekends wherever you are in the world. Take care, everyone.